Hi there, good morning. How are you doing? In this video, we'll try to understand how can we select the data from a table and what are different options we have while selecting the data and how do we sort the data as well, right? So, so far we have discussed about DDL operations, which is nothing but data definition language, that basically to deal with the data structures like creating the table, altering the table structure and all. And then we looked at DML operation, which is basically to insert the data into a table, and then we also looked at the merge operation, which is also part of DML, but which can combine all the features of like insert, update, and delete together in one single statement, right? And some of the videos we also discussed about performance tuning, row chaining, and several other factors. So in this video, we'll try to understand how do we basically query the data. Like once we insert the data, once we create the table, how do we retrieve the data from the table, which is nothing but DQL or DR, data query language and data retrieval language, right? So let's check it out. So I have a table called customers. I'll simply do select star from customers, right? This is a very simple select statement to retrieve the data. So what does it mean here by star? So star indicates that all the columns of the table. If we do not specify any column name, if we just put select star, that means it is going to retrieve all the columns of the table and its data. So basically, while selecting the data, what are different keywords that we can use together, right? So select is a keyword, and then the next immediate we have distinct. Select distinct keyword we can use, then from keyword we can use, and then where, and then group by, and then having, and then order by. So these are different keywords that we can use in the same sequence. So let me show you as it is. How do we get the data? Just for an example in this case. So I'll say that select distinct customer country. Okay, and then um, count of custody from customers where um, country like percentile group by country having count of custody greater than 0 order by country. This is purely an example. Here I'm not trying to get any insights out of it, just to fulfill all the words I have written the select statement, right? So what exactly happened here now, right? So we got the select, and I'm trying to get country wise count of customers from the customers table, where country like percentile, which means that I'm trying to retrieve everything. Ideally it is not needed in this case, but I just kept it just to fulfill the syntax with all the keywords, right? Where country like percentile, and then I'm summing up all the customers based on the country here, right? And any country which has got more than 0 customers, that means at least one customer should be there, right? Such kind of customers, and the country details I want, and order by country name in ascending order, right? So this is how the syntax look like. We'll talk more about all these aggregate functions and everything later on, but these are the different keywords. Now, so let's take one step back, right? So we have select star from customers, which is to retrieve all the customers data. What if I want only couple of columns? Maybe like I just want the customer ID and customer name. I'm not interested in the country, or I want customer name and customer country. I'm not interested in the customer ID. How do we get it? So select cust name, there's nothing but customer name, comma, country from customers. So this is how we can get the data, right? Now, for me, custom name is something not sounding um, logical. Think of like you are a layman from business, and these table column names could be tricky to understand, right? Instead, you want to make them clear and detailed from a layman point of view or from business point of view. How can we give it? In such kind of cases, we can use the alias names. So here I can say that custom name as customer name, and country, I can say once again country. So now if I query this, you can see that customer underscore name has been transformed to customer name and country. I have given the alias. If I want, I can just put it like this. I can say that country underscore name, just for example, right? So here we can see that country underscore name. So what is the difference between these two? So here I have used as a keyword to say that this is an alias name for the actual column name. And here I did not use the as keyword, but I could still specify the alias name for this column. Okay. So either ways we can do it. They both represents the same thing. There is no difference. There is no performance issues or anything. And I'm selecting the data from customers here, right? So one thing what we have to be careful while giving the alias names is do not give it something like this in double quotes, right? If I say that customer underscore name and here I'll say that tree underscore name. So observe here, I have given the names in lowercase within double quotes. Now, when I run it, you will see the column names here in lowercase. So you can check here. Now they're in lowercase. One thing what you should be knowing always is that whenever you try to query a table, its metadata will always be returned in uppercase, even when you store the metadata. I mean, like, you create a table, right? Automatically, its metadata will be stored in uppercase only. Okay. So if I give something like this in double quotes while creating or while returning, so the name will come as it is, or it will be stored as it is. It is not going to be transformed. Okay. But remember, Oracle, because it is always storing in the uppercase, usually when we write the select statements, if you see here, I'm just using like customers in uppercase, and here I'm using the same table in lowercase name. Either ways, I'll still get the same data. But if I give a table name in lowercase, then I will not be able to retrieve the data. This is something I have explained in the DDL statements while creating. All right. Now, um, next thing is like we have given the aliases for the columns. Can we give the aliases for the table name as well, which is nothing but the customers? Well, it is possible. We can say C. Just for an example, I want to keep it really short, so I'll just say C. So, and I can run the select once again, and you can see that I'm still getting the data. There is no difference. Okay. It is always best practice to prefix each column with the corresponding table name. In this case, because I have an alias name for the table, I have to use the alias name only before the column name. I should not use a full table name. Meaning, if I say customers dot, then this is going to throw an error because I have already given alias, and here I'm trying to give the table name. It should be with the alias only. It should not be the full table name. If I run it, what happens now? See, customers dot custom invalid identifier. It is saying that invalid identifier. That means this column customers dot customer name doesn't exist in customers table. But ideally, it's not the case. It is just because I have a prefix alias for this table. That's not what has been used. So what I can do, I can just put it like this, c dot custom, and I'll still get the data. So one more thing, if you notice, here I have given the qualifier, nothing but prefix, and here I did not give the qualifier, still it will work out. It doesn't anticipate always to have the qualifier in front of every column. Okay. Now, what if I want to give the full table name, right? I don't want to use the alias, I want to give the full table name. Customer start, and here also I'll put it as customer start. If I run it, you can see that still I am getting the data. There is no change, right? So either you can give the full table name or you can just give the alias name, whichever the way it will work. Only thing is if you are having an alias for the table, the same alias you should be using in the, I mean, as prefix in front of the columns. Okay. Now, um, why do we need to use the aliases? What happens if you don't use the aliases, right? I'll quickly give you a simple example so that you can understand. Let's say that let's start from customers A and then customers B. Just for an example, where A dot cust ID equal to p dot cust ID, and I'll run select. Okay. So if you see now, same customer ID, customer name, country, and customer ID, customer name, country repeated 2 times. Okay. If I say here cust ID, cust name, country, and if I run it, now it will not be able to understand from which table to retrieve the data. You see here, column ambiguously defined, which means that optimizer is not able to understand from which table to return the columns because both the tables have got the same column names, right? Such kind of cases, we wanted to use the alias. I'll say that a dot customer ID, a dot customer name, and a dot country. Now, if I run, you can see that the data has been returned. Okay, so this is how we can return the data, and this is how the aliases will be useful, right? So that's about selecting the data. And one more thing, what happens, like, if we give the um, aliases for columns in double quote, something like this, right? I'll give you another classic example that usually happens. So what I'll say is, I mean, here we have used join. I'll be talking about the joins later on. And now I'm going to use with the class. This is something again I will explicitly discuss later on. Okay. For now, cust underscore data has select cust ID as customer ID, cust underscore name as customer name, and then country as country name. Okay. From customers. Okay. Now what I'll do is here select. Okay. Select um, customer underscore ID. I have given it here in lowercase, so I'm keeping it in lowercase in double quotes. And then here I have customer name. I don't put it in lowercase. And then I have country name. I'll just select country name. All right. From cust underscore data. So what this CT with class does is, whatever the data that is returned from here, it will create a kind of temporary table within the database. That's it, right? And what are the columns I'm getting into this with class, into the temporary table? I'm getting customer ID, customer name, and country data. And the same thing I'm querying here from the same table. So let's run it. Obviously it's going to throw error. I'll explain why. So here you can see that customer name invalid identifier. It says that this column doesn't exist. Okay. So how about this? I have given country name here in uppercase in double quotes, and here also I have given it, in uppercase, and it is able to match. Okay, because I have anyhow given in double quotes, and the value is in uppercase already, the column name. And here, whether I give it in lowercase or uppercase, it is going to match. Quickly, if I have to show, I'll change it to country name. If I run it, you can see that it is still pointing to the customer name, but not the country name. Remember, whenever the SQL parses in the database while selecting the data, it will parse from right to the left side, not from left side to the right side, from right to the left side, which means that first it will check whether this table exists or not, whether the from keyword found or not, and prior to that, what is the column country name, is country name valid or not. Likewise, from right to the table left, always it will parse it and process it. So that's why in this case, country name is something it is already matching, though I have given it here in the uppercase and I have given it here in the lowercase. Because I did not keep here in the double quotes, by default it will convert into the uppercase and it will be able to match with this. So that's why it is able to resolve the country name irrespective of the case, right? However, here customer name, I have given it in lowercase, but here I just gave the customer name without giving any double quotes. So what it will do, it will try to convert this into the uppercase and then try to match if the data exists in this table. But while giving the alias here, I have given it in double quotes. That means that this column will only be returned in lowercase. The name will be in lowercase because, because we have a with class. And then here I am giving it in regular case. That means it will automatically convert into uppercase, and then it will try to check in this table, which won't be obviously existing. So that's why it is throwing error customer name, right? So what I can do now to resolve this, I have to keep it like this. Okay. And now it says that customer ID doesn't exist. So customer name is resolved now. Now it says that customer ID doesn't exist. It is invalid identifier. Why? Because I have given it in double quotes in lowercase. So it will try to exactly match the case of the column name as well. Whereas here, though I have given it in lowercase, I did not surround with the double quotes. So this will be converted into the uppercase, whereas this is looking for the lowercase. So it will not be able to resolve and it will throw error. So now what we have to do is remove this. And if I select now, you can see that I'm able to get the data, right? So that's why the double quotes are very important. I would say that don't ever try to use the double quotes. If you use the double quotes, in fact, you can even specify something like this as well. You can give the spaces. Remember, while explaining about the DDL, I have mentioned this. A name, a name of a table or a name of a column cannot start with number, cannot start with special characters, and it should not have the spaces. However, if you put the column name at the table name in double quotes, you'll be able to achieve all these things. But it's not a best practice. Okay, that is the reason. It's not, forget about best practice. It's not. It should not be a practice at all, because you'll end up into the issues always, right? That is the reason. Always give the column names or the table names without double quotes, so that irrespective of whether you type the table name and column name, whether in lowercase or uppercase, it is still going to be treated by converting into the uppercase, and always it will try to match with the uppercase only, right? That's about simple select statement. Okay, what next? Now we are able to uh, query the data from the table. We know how to give the alias to a table. We know how to give an alias to the column names. One thing I think so far we did not talk about is, like, earlier when I was mentioning alias for the table, I have given it as C, right? So can I specify um, C dot? It is optional, not mandatory. Okay, but I'm just giving it from standard point of view. So from customers and then space C I have given. Can I say as C, just like how I'm giving it here? Can I give the as keyword here as well? No. Okay, it's not possible. We cannot use the as keyword to specify the alias name for a table. It will throw an error. As keyword can only be used while giving alias for the column names only. If I run it, quickly can check it out. Syntax error. Okay, SQL not properly ended. And you can see here, there is a underlying. It says that, like, there is an issue, right? Because as keyword is not supported to give the alias for the table name. All right. Now, now we know how to select the data. Basic select star are, selected columns. So you might have a question. What if I have 100 columns and I want to exclude only 10 columns and remaining 90 columns I want to return? See, obviously, if we have 100 columns, instead of typing 90 columns that we want to see, it is better to say that exclude the 10 columns and give me rest all the columns. However, Oracle doesn't support it. Okay, we cannot specify 10 columns and say that excluding these columns, give me the data for rest of the columns. It is not supported. We have to type all the column names, all 90 columns, if you want to see the 90 columns. Okay, so now I have a question. So let's say that I have 100 plus columns. However, I first want to see only maybe, like, 2 3 columns from the table, and then still I want to see the remaining columns of the table, because I might find some other additional information. But the few columns that I want to select them in the first place. So think of, you have 100 columns, you are trying to see 5 columns in the first place, which could be anywhere in the table ideally, maybe like 30th position, 50th position, 80th position, or first position itself. However, you want to see the 5 columns in the first place, and then all other columns as well needs to be displayed. Ideal way of doing it is, you need to select the columns in whatever the order you want. For example, if you look at our customers table itself, right, I have 3 columns. If I want to see the country first place, what I can do, country I'll say, and then first ID, first name. I can select something like this. So now the order has changed. Ideally, in the table, we have the country name in the last position. However, while I'm selecting, I have selected in the first place. It is only select. It is not going to change the order of columns in the database. It is just while displaying, you can retrieve in whatever the order you want, basically, right? So think of, I have a large table. For example, select star from R underscore. I'll say that R underscore tables. Okay. R underscore tables is a dictionary table. You can see here I have hundreds of columns, right? But what I am interested to see is uh, rows and blocks. Okay. So what I wanted to see are table underscore name underscore rows blocks. Okay. So if I select only this, what happens is I will not be able to see all other columns, but I still want to retrieve other columns as well. Then how do I retrieve it? These four columns, they are in random positions. I brought them here, right? What I can do is comma r underscore tables dot star. If I say like this, what it will do? It will fetch these four columns. Along with this, it will fetch all the columns of this table once again, including these four columns. It will fetch everything. Let me show you. Here, if you see, I have owner, and once again, you can see owner. I have table name, and once again I have table name here, right? So the same columns are repeated, and then all other columns are also returned. So what did I gain here? By doing like this, I'm able to see the columns what I want to look at in the first place, and then maybe as I keep scrolling, I could find some columns which are of my interest. For example, like status, whether the status is valid or invalid, or IoT name. If the table is in no IoT table, then do I have the, I mean, is it IoT table name or not? Something like this. As I keep scrolling, I may find something which is interested to me, right? So I want to see all the columns as well. In such kind of cases, instead of typing all 100, 200 columns, we can just select the columns what we want to see in the first place, and then once again we can go back and say that table name dot start so that all the columns can also be displayed. However, just like this example, right? Just like the way how I have used with class, if I use the with class here, let's say that r underscore data, I'll just say this and this, right? And then if I say that select owner table name underscore rows blocks, now this is going to throw an error. Let's see this. It will say that column ambiguously defined, valid identifier, something score rows also there. What's wrong with this? Let me see. As keyword. While writing the class, we have to specify as. Okay, now we can see that column ambiguously defined. That's because, as I mentioned earlier, when we did this way, these four columns once again repeat. That means the same set of columns are repeated two times. Then it will not know from what column it has to return the data because each column has been repeated two times. All those four columns, right? Such kind of cases, maybe we want to rewrite it as table underscore owner, table underscore name one. I'll say those one, block underscore size. Just for an example, right? Now, if I run it once again, what happens is these four columns will not be selected from here, okay? Instead, it will select from here, okay? Because I have given different alias names here. Let's run this quickly and we'll get the data still, right? So this is the reason we have to make sure that we'll give the alias names in case if we are selecting the data, I mean selecting the columns in the first place, and then we are also specifying the star so that it doesn't throw an error like column ambiguously defined, right? Okay, this is about selecting the columns. Now, what if I want to select a specific row from the table? So far, we have been discussing how to select all the columns are the specific columns from the table, but the entire data. Now, what I want to do is I want to return a specific row from the table. So for example, if I just quickly query select star from customers, right? I want to return people who do not have the country name, right? So where country equal to what rows do I want to return? I want to return all the rows where the country is unknown. So I'll just specify unknown in single quotes. Look at this, I'm giving it in single quotes. So whenever you are inputting a string while inserting the data into the table or while returning the data from the table, okay, if you are giving while returning the data, if you are giving in a condition like case statement or in the where clause or anywhere to validate, then you have to give the strings always in inputs, including the data types as well. Only for numbers it is not needed, it is optional. Okay, even if you are giving the number and if you put it in single quotes, once again it is going to treat it as a character because you keep it in single quotes. So for numbers you don't need to specify the single quotes, whereas for rest of the data types you have to put them always in the single quotes only, not double quotes. Once again it is only single quotes. The moment you keep it in double quotes, it will assume that it's a column name. That's why we have to keep it in single quotes, then it will think that it's a value, not a column name. So here, select star from customers where country equal to unknown. I'm doing this. Now if I run this, you can see that these many people are there do not have the country name. All these people's country name is unknown, right? This is how we can return. Now I want to just see customer name and country. I'm not interested in customer ID. Still, you can go back and do the same thing. Just underscore name and then country, right? And if I want to give the aliases, I can still give the aliases as well. Customer underscore name as country underscore name. This is how I can return the data. All right, so far so good. Now, I do not know the full country name, whether it is uppercase or lowercase, whatever it is. But what I know is the country name is starting with U. Okay, I don't know the full country name, but the country name is starting with U. I want to find all the customers whose country name starting with U, starting with. Remember that. Okay, then how do I get it? So prior to uh, check out how do I get that data, first, let's try to understand what are different operators in SQL, right? Different operators in SQL. So one is equal to operator, and then we have greater than or equal to, less than, less than or equal to, like, not like, okay, not in operator, and not equal to operator. This is not equal to operator. Either we can specify like this or we can specify like this. Both will stand the same thing. There's no difference, and there's no performance impact or anything. So equal to is one operator where you want to exactly match the value. You can use the equal operator. Greater than or equal to, usually we use to match with the numbers. But remember, it can also be matched with the characters. I will explain later on why. Okay. Then we have less than and then less than or equal to. So less than and less than are equal to, once again, we can use for numbers, but it can also be used for characters. I'll talk about it later. Then we have like operator and then not like operator, in operator, not in operator. So let's say that you want to find out, as I mentioned earlier, like where the country name starting with U. Then we have to use like operator. And at the same time, if you want to specify that I don't want any country whose name starting with U and just all the customers belonging to other countries I want to see, then we can specify not like, right? For such kind of data retrievals, we can use these operators, right? So now the same thing, I'll just copy here. And my requirement is now I want to find out whether, I mean, like any customer who belongs to a country which is starting with U, right? What we can do is I can specify U. And I did not say whether it is uppercase or lowercase, so I'll just keep it in lowercase for now, right? And then if I run it, I don't get anything because here I just gave U and I did not give anything. In this case, it will treat that, you know, instead of performing the like operation, meaning like you're trying to match the U and some other, and the corresponding substrings, it will just look for exactly U. meaning it will work like a equal operator instead of working like a like operator. Okay. So whenever we perform like operator, again, like operator has three options. What are those three operations and options? First one is underscore. Okay, underscore. Second one is um, percentile, right? And third one is escape. You can specify escape. These are three options that we have that we can use with like and not like options. So let's see what does it mean. So coming back. So what are these options, right? Underscore, percentile, and escape. So underscore means match one any one character. Okay. Slash, okay. Any character, special characters or numbers, anything can be matched, but only one value you can match using underscore. Okay. Percentile means match zero or more pairs or numbers. You can specify either zero characters or numbers or more than that as well. There is not, if you specify percentile, it doesn't mean that like you should have at least one character. Even if zero characters are there, it will still match. Okay. So let's look at it now. So what is our requirement? Our requirement was to find all the customers who belongs to a country whose name starting with U, right? So in this case, I'm saying that the first character has to be U, but it can be anything else after that. Like it can be Uganda, it can be Ukraine, it can be UK, or it can be anything, right? So in such kind of cases, you can specify percentile because we don't know how many characters are going to be there in the name. After U, I'll say percentile. Even if the country name just has U, still will be written. Even if it has 10 characters after U, still it is going to be written because this is going to match 0 or more characters. So let's return this. Ideally, we have a country called unknown, but let's see whether this will be returned or not now. And there is nothing written. What is the reason? The reason is we have given the value in lowercase here. However, the country name is in uppercase here, right? So the data in the table is in uppercase. First letter of the country in uppercase, but here I'm giving in lowercase. Obviously, it will not be able to match. So we can use U, right? Upper U and then percentage. Now, if you see, I'm going to get the data, and you can see here I have USA, I have UK, and I have unknown, right? All these countries have been returned. So this is like starting with. What if I want to find any country whose name ending with A and it should be uppercase? Okay, any country whose name ending with A and prior to that it can be any character, but the end should be definitely A and it should be in uppercase, right? How do I get it now? So instead of giving the percentile at the end, this time I'm saying that percentile could be at the start, okay? And then the end character can be A. Even if the country name has only one letter that is A and there's no prefix, still it is going to be returned, okay? So in this case, A is at the end. So if you look at the percentile is always matching zero or more characters, right? Now, um, I want to find any customer whose name having at least one A, and I'm searching for customer name here, right? So customer underscore name, like I'll say percentile. Now let's see, okay? You see, there is only one customer whose customer name is having A. And this is in uppercase. If you see, this is in uppercase. That is the reason I'm getting only one. But there are other names which are having in lowercase here. So what I can do is I'll just put it as A, and then if I execute once again, you can see that, right? I'm getting this time. There is only one, and specifying here percentile and both the cases means it can be any number of characters. Okay, but the A should be in the between. That's it. Okay, so this is how we can specify it. Um, what else we can do is similarly, I can say that not like. So far we did like operation. Now what I'm saying is, give me any customer whose name doesn't have at least one A. Doesn't have at least one A. For such kind of customer names, if I want to return, then I can just once again execute, and you can see here, Con doesn't have A, John doesn't have. Likewise, all these customers, they don't have lowercase a in their names, right? Okay, now I want to find out any customer whose name has only three characters. Whose name has only three characters. How do I do it? So select start from, I'll say customers, where customer underscore name equal to, or basically not equal to, it's like, and how many characters? I want to match three characters, right? So one underscore, two underscores, and three times underscore I have given. If I execute, you can see this. I have customer name, like Con and Ram. They both have three-letter names, right? This is how we can find it. Now, what if I want to find any customer whose name is three characters, and it should also have a in between. It should also have a in between. So the first character can be anything, the last character can be anything, but the middle character has to be definitely a. Okay, how do I get this? So this is how I can give it, and if I run it now, we'll get Ram. So for Ram, if you see, the first character is R, and the last character is M, and the middle character is A. So here, this underscore definitely has to match at least one character. It is not zero characters. It has to match at least one character. And similarly here as well. If I just give percentile here and then run it, now you see Venkat is also coming, Ram is also coming, and once again Venkat is also coming. The reason for this is they have A, right? And after A, there is at least one character. So there is one character that is matching here, and then A is also there. But prior to that, I did not specify how many characters. I said that zero or more characters, then it will match everything. If I want to match only three, then this is the way we can query it, right? The next thing what we can look at is in and not in operator. So we looked at like operator, and then we looked at not like operator. Now let's try to understand in and not in operator. Let's say that I want to find all the people who are from India and USA. So select star from customers, where country in, and I'll say here USA. This is how we can write it. Okay, you can keep extending up to 1,000 values. All right, using the in operator, you can specify up to 1,000 values. You cannot go beyond 1,000 values. If you try to give more than 1,000 values, it will throw error. Okay, you can give only up to 1,000 values in the in operator. At the same time, you can also specify where not country name in India, USA. This means I'm saying that give me any customer who doesn't belong to India or USA. Give me all such kind of customers data. This is one way of doing it, or I can specify the not operator here as well. Okay, either ways you can do it. It is going to work out. Even for this scenario, of giving it here, I can say that where not customer name like A, and still I'll get it. Okay, so either ways we can do it. All right, this is about in operator and not in operator. And remember, whenever you are giving the values, they have to be in single quotes and they are case sensitive. The values should be case sensitive. There is another way of doing it, that is like using upper function, lower function, and then where we can convert the values. I'll talk about them when we talk about the functions, right? Um, and one last thing I'll talk about, and then we'll wrap it up. So what I want to find is, let's say that I want to find any customer whose name is having the slash, whose name is having the slash. Okay, how do I find it? So select star from customers. Instead of finding the slash, first we'll try to find out the percentile and underscore, then I'll come to the slash. Okay, so first let's find out any customer whose name is having percentile. So how do we do it? Where where customer underscore name, like, okay, so how do we specify it? Usually percentile means, so it can, beginning can be anything, ending can be anything. So I have one beginning, I have one ending, and in between, what am I trying to match? I'll put another percentile. So now all these three are going to be treated as wild cards. These are called as wild cards. It will think that each and every character is a wild card, and then it will return me everything, irrespective of whether it has percentile or not. Everything it is going to return. This is nothing but indirectly querying something like this. They both you know represents the same thing. There is no performance issue, right? But what we want to find is give me any customer whose name has the percentile, right? In between. What we need to do in this case is slash, I mean backslash percentile, okay, and then I'll specify one more person. So now I should also specify that escape slash. Okay. So what this will tell this optimizer is that I should be able to match any character starting with. I should be able to match any character ending with in between, but in between I should be having something called percentile. After slash whatever is there, that's the value I'm trying to match. And to say that, I'm using the slash and I'm saying that after slash whatever is there, don't treat it as a wild card. Instead treat it as a regular character that I'm searching for. Now if I run this, you can see that I have got Venkat. Okay. Similarly, if I want to search for underscore, I have to just replace this with underscore, right? And you can see that now I have got my cut. So now this is not trying to match to the single character. Instead, it is trying to get everything. The last thing what I want to do is I want to find out, any customer whose name is having slash itself, whose name is having slash itself. So I have to specify double slash, and now you can see that I have got this as well. Okay. So this is how we can use the wild characters, right? And the last thing, earlier we have used like, not like, and then in and I mean, in and not in. But there is one operator that we did not discuss about so far. And then we have like, greater than or equal to, less than and less than or equal to. These are some things I will explain in the next video, because as I mentioned, greater than or equal to can also be used for characters, but ideally these are numerical functions, and why they can be used, with the character columns or string columns, I will explain in the next video. Till then, take care. Have a good day. Bye bye.